Producer Nick tells me we've got some questions. Let's dive in. Okay, question number 1. Oh, it's from you, Producer Nick.
Me again. So with the I in MEDDIC or MEDDIC, I hear a lot of people say identify the pain, but we say implicate the pain. So which is right?
Which is right? Oh yeah, good question. They're both right, I think. In fact, if you were to take our most modern thinking, you could say they're both wrong. So initially, the I stood for identify pain. Our evolution of thought there was that merely identifying the pain is not enough. Often customers, sometimes they know they have pain, sometimes they don't, but if they do know, they've already identified it, and just sort of, skipping over any of the implications that pain is causing them is not good selling. So we always talk about having 3 stages. So the first is identifying the pain. The second is indicating the pain, which means you basically are quantifying how much the pain is costing them, and you use metrics for that. And then the third and most important part is the I for implicating the pain. So you go identify, indicate, implicate, which means you really get into what are the implications of this pain to this customer, specifically to the individual stakeholders, because we know each stakeholder feels pain differently. So what are the implications to each stakeholder? The reason why I said that both could be wrong is because one of our evolutions of thought here as we've evolved MEDDIC to be more than just a qualification framework, more than just a methodology, but being a value framework as well, is that we want to get from the identification of pain to the identification of gain. So we can really see that transition from what is life like without our solution and what is life like with our solution. So we talk about implications as being, the implications of pain, but also what are the positive implications that come from the gain as well. So we take the customer on that full journey of, life without us to life with us, and the nightmare, horrible state to the utopia, wonderful state thereafter. So yeah, good question, Nick. Nice one.
Question 2 is from an old friend of MEDDIC's, Marina Ayton. And her question was, what is the biggest mistake that salespeople make?
What is the biggest mistake that salespeople make? I feel like I might have some recency bias in my mind based on the last question here, but one of the biggest mistakes I see that salespeople make is they think about MEDDIC and particularly pain as being, or qualification as well, as being like this event. And the same for discovery. Basically, all of what the good tenants are selling are, people think of them as being a moment in time, an event. So they think about discovery as being an event that happens at the beginning normally of a sales cycle. They think about the implication of pain as being something that happens, when the truth is the best salespeople know that buyers, customers are human beings. They have emotions, and what's happening all the time, just as we know in our personal lives when we're interested in buying things or making decisions, we go up and positive for it, and then we have a complete change of heart sometimes in the space of minutes. We completely change our mind on things, and our customers are doing exactly the same, except for it could happen many times over the span of a sales engagement. So the biggest mistake that salespeople make is that they don't take that into consideration. They go, well, I've already done discovery, I've already found the pain, I've already quantified the metrics, but they've not even taken into account the fact that that person or people who have who've done that discovery, who have had that pain implicated, may have forgotten about it, other priorities may have come up, other salespeople from your competitors may have changed their mind a little bit, not to mention other stakeholders coming in all the time. So the biggest mistake is to consider those things as an event and not to constantly be re-implicating pain, rediscovering, and a ton of other really good things. Anything that's really good selling, it's never one and done. It's always going to be omnipresent throughout your engagement with the customer. Good question, Marina. Thank you for that one. And by the way, for those that want to hear more great comments, questions, thoughts from Marina, we have a Masters of MEDDIC episode, which will be linked somewhere with the magic that the team does in post. So question number 3, it says mystery external guest, and it says play this video, and there's a link. Shall I press it? Okay. Oh, it's Caroline.
Hi, Andy. I have a trick question for you. So we talked about how deal review can be perceived just because of the name review as a reporting session, and how we have to find the right words to change the culture of how MEDDIC is used. So what's the right word?
What is the right word? Because the term deal review, you never leave a review for a restaurant halfway through your meal. It's always after you finished your meal. So why would you call a deal review something when you're in the midst of working on the deal? That's the idea there. It also has this connotation of it being sort of, someone turning up and having something reviewed, when actually what we're trying to do is bring all the brains together from the sales team, from the different go-to-market teams together to kind of brainstorm opportunity. What are some things we can do to increase our chances of winning this deal for more in a shorter space of time? I really like here is deal storming, because it combines the deal review and brainstorm elements, and I just like the idea of that as a concept. So we have a deal storm as a MEDDICC sales team every Friday, I think at about 2 p.m. So I'd love that to be an industry term. I think it's quite cool. Oh, and if you like seeing Caroline, you can see her as our first ever guest on MedMen. So Caroline joined us in the studio, and it's a great episode. So be sure to get involved on that by clicking the link there. Question number 4 is from Elise Fox, and it says, throw to Nick behind camera.
Hello, Nick behind camera. So the question was, I think this is a really good question. How do you work MEDDICC process effectively if the company you work for doesn't have it implemented?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we see this a lot because, one of the things about our industry is salespeople often are looking to improve. That's one of the great things about sales, is there's always opportunities to learn more, be more, do more. And I think, we have a lot of people come to our programs who are just like that. So it's not a company-based initiative, it's just them looking to improve. And they've probably heard about MEDDICC as being a way they can improve. And so in those instances, you're kind of a bit of a lone wolf if you're using this, this common language. And for sure, there's gonna be a lot of upside if your company uses it. By the same sense, you as a salesperson using it, particularly if you take it in the mindset of a common language and a qualification framework and a methodology, there's just going to be so many upsides to using MEDDICC that you're going to be in a much better position. And so the advice I'd give is just lean in, use the terms. The great thing about MEDDICC is, even if you don't know what it is, if you start talking to somebody about your champion, if you start talking to somebody about the economic buyer, if you start talking about the customer's decision criteria, decision process, etc., the people you're talking to, even if they don't know MEDDICC, they're going to know what those terms mean. Now, where the challenge will come is in the definitions, of course. Someone might talk to you back about a champion who is actually a coach or just a contact. And that's where the disadvantage happens. But my advice is just to really lean in. What we see happen a lot is CROs will reach out to us because 1 or 2 of their sales team have started using MEDDICC and they've liked the clarity, they've liked the progression they've seen, all that kind of good stuff. So it's a great way for you to kind of stand out amongst your peers if they aren't using a framework, if they aren't using a common language, to look good. But I wouldn't overthink it too much in terms of the downsides of your company not using it. There's still a ton of upside. That's Elise Fox. I remember that name because did this question come from the SDR webinar? Okay, yes, because I remember reading Elise's name, I think that's a nice name, but I don't want to get it wrong when she asked a question on the webinar. And so, yeah, that's interesting. By the way, I don't know if Elise is still an SDR or if she was an SDR at the time, but if anyone is an SDR watching this and is thinking about getting into MEDDICC and furthering their career, if you fancy going into the field, I think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, that webinar is still on LinkedIn, so you can, I'm sure someone will put a link somewhere if you wanted to catch that. That's a good webinar for anyone who's thinking about progressing their career with MEDDICC. The last question, it says, mystery internal guest.
Yes, so this person was dying to ask you a question. Firm friend of both of ours, Mr. Elliot Boll, wanted to ask you this question. This question to you was, what's the most embarrassing mistake you've made as a sales professional?
So this is a silly thing, but it was embarrassing for me, but I don't even know if anyone else figured it out. We were doing a SKO with a large company once, and I had spoken to on the phone, which is a little bit unusual these days, the president of that company, who had a very specific name, first name, and I got on great with them, and I was looking forward to meeting them. I knew I'd see them at the SKO. It was in Vegas, I think it was. And then at the event, somebody introduced me to somebody who seemed very familiar and very happy to meet me, very pleased to sort of see me with the same name. And I just put 1 and 5 together and got 2 and assumed that was the president of the company. this person wasn't. This person was, you know, a senior manager, but they weren't the president of the company. But I kind of, for the next couple of days, or maybe day and a half or so, I kind of assumed that that person was the president of the company, and they probably thought, wow, this Andy guy is very, very respectful, very, you know, very familiar with me as well. So that was funny. And then obviously I met the actual president, and I had this moment where I was probably a bit weird to them, because I was like, oh wow, you're the actual, yeah. So that was quite embarrassing. I don't think anyone knows that, and I've obviously not revealed any names or anything like that, and I'll take it to the death of me. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it was a little bit embarrassing. Okay, now that is all the questions for episode number 2. Thank you very much to those that got in touch, and I would love to see more questions. This has actually been quite a lot of fun, so thank you for that. If you would like to ask me a question, please do get me on LinkedIn, email us, send a pigeon, any kind of thing, maybe a smoke signal, anything like that. But seriously, we would love to see you use the comments below. I think is probably the best place to put them, as Nick was violently pointing below. I was thinking what's down here, but he means the comments that are down there somewhere. Leave a question in the comments. We would love to answer it. Thank you very much.